Hold on 2 seconds. All right. All right. I think it's doing it. I think it's doing it.
It is. There's an indication in my screen that says we're live on Facebook.
All right. All right. So we're going to give it 2 more minutes just to give a couple of more people an opportunity to get here. I know that some people are definitely enjoying the opportunity to go Facebook Live and all of that kind of stuff. Now, there is supposed to be a way that I can do this on Instagram Live, preferably without me having to hold my phone the whole time. How's everybody doing tonight? Anybody get any sleep last night?
Fantastic. Yes, I did.
Yay. It's a little super extra crazy over here. I thought they were going to set some of the palm trees on fire. All right. So I guess folks will trickle in eventually. Do I really have to sit here and hold this? Oh, if I don't know that that's how that works, I wouldn't have done that. All right, well, we'll have to get Instagram on the very next one now that I know how that works. All right, so thank you everybody for coming to join us. This is Acu-points. This is the Black Acupuncture meet and greet. And the way that this got started is that there are a lot of people who have never seen an African-American acupuncturist. They find that to be kind of a unicorn type of experience. They don't believe that that is real. And it's easy to believe because we are less than 2% of the total acupuncture population in the country, according to a 2013 survey done by the NCC-AOM. So this week's rendition of Acu-points Black Acupuncture Meet and Greet is for you guys to have an opportunity to meet some of the students that are up and coming here in in acupuncture land, right? So we've gotten 5 amazing students to come and join us today. I am trying to cut on my Facebook so that I can watch questions as they come in. Hi, Mama Denise and Mama Maria. Thank you guys for joining us. I think I've made everybody co-host that need to be co-host. That's distracting. I'm going to turn that down. I can hear myself on the Facebook Live. All right. We got our last person here. I'm going to make them a co-host. Thank you guys for being patient because I am not the most tech savvy person in the whole wide world. So the way that we usually get started with this is whomever is that I catch smiling when I'm talking and someone has already been caught smiling. 2 people have now been caught smiling. That's lined up. 3 people are now smiling. I know how this is going to go. I like big smiles. And so the friendliest people are the ones that get to introduce themselves. So Mama Jennifer, you were the first person that I caught smiling. So as a future acupuncture student, can you come on? Can you tell us, one, what school are you going to? What prompted you to want to be an acupuncturist and how all of that is going so far?
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you, everybody, for coming to this. This is really nice to be on here and to talk with everyone. So I am a student of Maryland University of Integrative Health. It used to be Thai Sophia. So if you know that name, or familiar with that name. But now it's actually a university and I'm in my 9th trimester there. It means I am done, basically. Done with classes, at least I will be done with classes, I should say, at the end of this month. And then once clinic gets back open, I have a few more patients to see and clinic hours to get done. So then that will be done too. So happy about that. And what prompted me to go to acupuncture? So my background is mostly in biological sciences. So I've always been a huge science nerd. I have a master's degree in biology and a master's degree in physiology. My background was in like cancer research, cancer genetics, microRNAs and all these very intricate type cell biology and all of that type work for a long time. And then I began to look closely a little bit at my own personal health journey. So I became a vegan after dealing with a terrible situation of eczema. I've always had to battle with some digestive issues. And I just started to kind of put these things together, digestion and how poor digestion can manifest in different parts of your body. in your skin when it comes to eczema. I was in a program, a physiological sciences program at the University of Arizona. It is an interdisciplinary program. So you can rotate through different labs and different aspects of physiology. And I was interested more in cell physiology. And so I was in a lab where the research was focused on turmeric or curcumin. And in that lab, we were looking at curcumin and its effects on osteoporosis. And so I started to make these connections like, oh, herbs, I can use herbs and basically foods to help with these very, hard to treat and chronic issues, chronic skin or chronic issues of the body. And I started to make these connections way back then. And then I started to also really like delve a little bit deeper into my my family's history. My grandmother was a huge, we lived in the South. I'm from the South, South Carolina, and she was big into like plant medicine. So that's kind of where I started out, was plant medicine and food medicine, or medicine as food. And it kind of like developed even more into that. So I became an herbalist, and then I started to look at Chinese herbs, and then that kind of then went into acupuncture. So it kind of just, I don't know, holistic medicine stream, I guess, starting with more of a Western medicine focus point. So that's how I got to acupuncture. And I'm really glad that I did, because it's the most wonderful thing in this world. I'm really glad that I'm going to be an acupuncturist in the next few months. It's a beautiful career. And I think everyone should at least know an acupuncturist so that you can get some information and some good life skills or life information from them, because what we learn is really amazing. It will change your life. Was there a third question?
No, that was it for now. We try to circle through,
yep.
folks.
Sure. Yep.
Thank you for sharing. That is an awesome and amazing story. So the next that I caught was, yes, down there in the corner with curls, Mama Lena. If you can come on board and tell us what school you're going to and how it's going for you and what prompted you to become an acupuncturist.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me in this conversation space. It's been really exciting. I am at the Midwest College of Oriental Medicine in Racine, Wisconsin. I'm in the Midwest, and I'm in my, I have to think, trimesters now. I think I'm in my 6th or 7th trimester at this point. And things are going, it's weird because I'm a mom of 2. So I only think of trimesters when I'm thinking about my kids. So it's hard to think of trimesters, quarters without kids, but I guess this will be my 3rd kid. So things are going well. I'm actually going to be relocating soon. So I have to figure out what to do with my current trajectory for my program. That's a whole nother can of worms, but I'm going to just keep trucking through for right now. And I got to acupuncture, funnily enough, very in a similar manner as Jennifer. I'm in clinical research. I actually have a master's in exercise physiology as well, strangely enough. And my day job is in clinical research. I manage databases for clinical trials. And I've worked for big pharma for a number of years. And I've noticed quite a bit of adverse events and various things that occur with clinical trials for different subjects and different ailments. And I felt like there had to be more that you could do to help people. Usually clinical trials are, at least in terms of the way that they're marketed, they are either an urgent last resort, or at least for the conditions that I've been working with to this point, they're an urgent last resort for many patients, or they are an avenue for people who have a particular type of condition and all of the current conventional medications are not working for them for whatever reason. And one thing that really stuck out to me was, one, the number of people of color who are not in the trials, and two, the number of practitioners, um, doctors, other researchers who are not of color, who are not in the trials and on the staffing side. So the way that I fell into acupuncture, my dad is a pharmacist, or was a pharmacist. He's still with me, so I always say present tense. And so I've always been interested in medicine and medications and prescriptions. And our plan was for me to go to medical school and he would be my pharmacist, and we would open up a clinic in Nigeria and serve our community. And unfortunately that part didn't quite happen with him. He passed away at the beginning of 2001. But I feel like when I fell into acupuncture, I was pregnant with my daughter. I was in my 3rd trimester, and I was having the heartburn and the swollen feet and the always hungry and the attitude, the hurry up, you need to come out of here attitude. And I was going to I was going to a smoothie bar to get a wheatgrass smoothie, because at that point, the only thing that was really helping me keep food down was wheatgrass, strangely enough. And it was also keeping my iron levels at bay, because I was borderline anemic at the beginning of my pregnancy. And my midwife said that I needed to find a way to keep my iron levels up. Otherwise, if my iron was too low, she would not be able to work with me at the end of my term. And I would be more likely to go to the hospital and have a traditional birth, which was not what I wanted. So I was like, okay, she kept me on the straight and narrow with the herbs. So I got my wheatgrass smoothie, and there was an acupuncturist in the smoothie bar who had rented a room. So the smoothie bar had some community spaces available to other practitioners, and she had a room that she used for treatments. So she was just kind of working the smoothie bar, chatting with people, and she talked with me about my pregnancy symptoms, how acupuncture could help them. I had never used acupuncture before, but I had heard about it, and I was just intrigued. I never really had met anyone prior to that did acupuncture. And she just we talked for quite a bit, way longer than my regular lunch hour. And I had this lipoma on my forehead, sort of a fatty cyst on my forehead that I had had since my first child. So it had been there for about 7 years. And out of the blue, something said, ask her about your bump, ask her about your bump. So I asked her, and she talked to me for another maybe 15, 20 minutes. And I felt like I had a revelation after talking with her. I mean, it was like she had talked about the stress and things that I had dealt with for years before, and it was impacting my lipoma. Like, it was like that was the reason why I was there. And nobody else had ever asked me any questions about my lifestyle. It was all about, well, we can cut it out, but it's a cosmetic procedure, so you have to pay out of pocket. That was it. I wasn't born with it. Nobody really dug deep and asked me any pertinent questions to see, okay, where did this really come from? And she was like the first one who asked all of these amazing questions that I thought, all of that stuff that I've been through that had an impact on this bump on my forehead. Oh, okay. So I took my wheatgrass smoothie, went back to work, And I left work early and drove straight home and looked up acupuncture programs because I was just blown away. It was like I couldn't focus at work anymore. And that's how I came into it. And I feel sort of a peace about being in it, because in a way, all of my relatives have been telling me, I'm supposed to be the doctor. So I come from a immigrant family of Nigerians. So everybody has been labeled from birth what they're going to be to the world. And, I was supposed to be the doctor. And if you don't quite fulfill your track, you get a little bit of Nigerian pressure. If you're an immigrant, you kind of know what I'm talking about. But you get that pressure on you, and it's always subtle, never ending. And I feel like once I took this path and made a decision, applied, it was like everything just flowed. Once I made this decision for myself and applied and went through the process, it was just easy, like no resistance. And my relative naysayers are quiet now. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm on the right track. My dad is happy up above. He's giving me the okay. So that's how I came into acupuncture, and I'm really enjoying the process. It's a little challenging, but I'm feeling how it's growing me. It's growing me. So.
All right. Well, thank you, Mama Lena, for sharing. I appreciate you sharing our journey with us. So I can't quite tell if Anthony is smiling because he's got like his hands in front of his mouth. We haven't had any guys on here yet. So I'm going to pick on Scott because I could see him smiling. And Scott, come on board. Tell us a little bit about you. Where are you going to school at? And what made you decide to become an acupuncturist?
Hey, everybody. I'm Scott Hammond. So I'm a recent graduate of Midwest College of Oriental Medicine.
Hey.
Yeah. I graduated from the Evanston campus in December.
Okay.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I still have some clinical responsibilities that I have to fulfill.
Okay.
But once I fulfill those, then it's on to the boards. Hopefully by the end of the summer. So yeah. So I came into So my journey goes back to like when I was 7 years old.
Wow.
When I was about 7, 8 years old. So I'm 50. I'm 51 right now. So growing up,
you don't look it. I wasn't gonna get nothing.
All right, acupuncture. All right.
Yeah, right. My professor, he'll say it's the acupuncture. It's the acupuncture. Daryl Daly. You know Daryl Daly? Dr. Daryl? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, growing up in Chicago, fighting was a thing. On the south side of Chicago, fighting was the thing, like for little boys, gangs and all of that. Right around that same time, you had the Kung Fu flicks coming on Saturdays in Chicago. I don't know about other states. So I just, I didn't want to get beat up. So I was like, oh, I got to study this.
Wow.
And I did, and started karate when I was like 7, and then got into Kung Fu. And it wasn't, and it turned out like over the years, it became me not just being interested in the fighting as much as the philosophies and the culture of honor and respect and dignity and courage, and because those were all things you needed growing up on the south side of Chicago. And nobody was really talking about them, like that. And it wasn't the Lone Ranger and Tonto, the brown dude in the background. It wasn't, Green Hornet and Kato, Kato, in the background. It was a whole nother people that I could study and try and understand. So I was also an artist from an early age. Went to college for that. Got my undergrad in art and design, and concentration in advertising. So I did video games for over 15 years, video animation, and then I think it was 2013. It was a very stressful job. Very stressful job. Wonderful job, but 15 years went by like that, like that, because you live deadline to deadline, right? So then, as a result, I ended up having open heart surgery. Yeah, I had mitral valve regurgitation going on. So they had to open my chest, and luckily, well, thankfully, I had the least invasive surgery was necessary. So, and I got the guy that invented the procedure. So, because my cousin worked there, and she was like, "Ask for this dude." So I'm like, I asked for him, and he's like, "Okay, cool, I'll do it." Anyway, so I survived. And then during that time, my wife was doing she was learning about integrative nutrition. So I had been a vegan before that since 1993.
Wow.
I've been a vegan, like as vegan as best I could be as a bachelor, with my little knowledge. So anyway, so boom, I get this surgery, and then I needed to heal. Right? And around that time, I had children, and we had discovered my now mentor, my teacher, one of my kung fu teacher, Wilbur Rhymes, Dr. Rhymes. He was treating my wife. He was treating my daughter. He treated my daughter. Then he eventually treated my daughter. He was treating my children, and I needed to heal my chest cavity. So here he comes with shoot. Why am I not gonna remember that right now? I don't remember the herb, but it's a salve. What's that? It was not Yin Fayao. It was not Yin Fayao. It wasn't. No, it wasn't. I'm gonna remember as soon as this is over. And I'll message you, too. But it healed this wound. And I'm going to the doctor regularly, and they're like, "How is this wound healing so fast?" And I'm like, "I'm not telling you nothing." And because you're gonna tell me to stop. And my wounds healed fast. I weaned off of my medications. I was on like 11 medications. I got off my medications quicker, and it was like boom. Oh, okay. What am I going? This was the question I asked myself, because I was at a crossroads with my career. My career was crazy. It was crazy. It was like it was right around the time companies started asking people to work nights and weekends. So it was like that's when that was infused into the culture. Like we expect you to be here on Saturday, Sunday, whatever it takes. And I was like, I gotta make a choice. So I asked myself, what will you be able to do at 60, at 70? Because 401k, the stock market had just crashed in 2008, a few years earlier. My 401k was like in the dirt. So I'm like, let me do something that's going to rise in value, as I get older. Because in that industry, as you got older, you became, you were a weight around their neck. You cost too much money, and you didn't know the up-to-date software or whatever. So it was like Chinese medicine made sense. And so I got into PCOM first. I did 3 years at PCOM, and then I finished up like a year and a half at Midwest. And I'm grateful to this day, man. love Chinese medicine. Sometimes it's frustrating. Sometimes it's incredibly satisfying. But I wouldn't have it any other way. So that's me.
Thank you for sharing, Brother Scott, and thank you for being our first male guest on Acu-points Black Acupuncture Meet and Greet. And it is true. Like, it is something that most acupuncturists die doing. Like, it's not because we need the money; it's just because we can and we love what we do so much. Many of the mentors that I have learned from pretty much practice up until their dying day when they get out of bed anymore. So, we got 2 panelists left. I see Lynn's covering up her smile, but Anthony raised his hand to volunteer. So Brother Anthony, be our second male guest ever on Acu-points Black Acupuncturist Meet and Greet. Now, strangely enough, if you guys don't know that, there are not very many male acupuncturists in general, and there are very Black male acupuncturists. So Brother Anthony, our future student there, come on up, tell us a little bit about yourself, why you decided to become an acupuncturist, and where you're going to school and how your program's going.
All right, so I'm not going to think trimesters because my program at Middle Way, I'm about an hour north of Seattle. It's called Middle Way Acupuncture Institute. They're going into their 15th year. I'm in class 13. I'm in my second year. Next year we go in, we get a lot of clinical stuff to go on to get our 650 plus hours in of clinical experience. It's a lot. I had no clue what I was getting into because I'd never had any acupuncture before I got into the school. I'm from North Carolina. Every now and then you'll hear some stuff come out. What part are you from? I'm from Wilson, which is Eastern North Carolina. So I had no clue about anything. It was thrown around that maybe you go to medical school, and I was like, I don't want to deal with blood. I don't want to deal with people. But I went into the Navy, got on my submarine because I started out as a nuclear machinist. I hated that job, and when I got on the boat, I was talking to the doc, and I was like, if I could cross train over, I'm going to be a corpsman. They look like they're having fun. Well, I picked up an officer package and got shipped off my boat and went to school. And well, that goes that dream. I'm just going to go back and come back into the military later on, but I was going to come in as a doctor. That's a whole other story I told my friend earlier today. I was like, I really was going to come back as a doctor. But, they say, man playing God laughs, because that never happened. I got totally out of the military altogether, went back to North Carolina Central, which was a rival school to the school I started going to when I first went to college. I first started at North Carolina A&T as a mathematics engineering major. And there was some stuff going on at A&T in the mid-90s. And I was like, screw it. If I'm gonna get shot at, I might as well join the military. That's why I joined the military. And so when I got out, I went back to T. The environment didn't feel right. I moved out of being in engineering mathematics and then went into political science. Then went home. I got a degree in paralegal, and then went to North Carolina Central because I was like, I'm going to do something to help people out. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'2", over 250 at the time. I'm pretty aware of certain things, but what about people who come to the school that can't help themselves out? So I was being really altruistic. I was a resident assistant, wanted to be in resident assistant. And everywhere I went, I almost always assumed a leadership role, most times reluctantly, but I always did what I felt needed to be done for the other people. Fast forward out of Central, I got my degree in public administration. I went another year later and got a degree in geography. And I started working in both of those fields. I was working for Amazon. I was working for Google. I worked for a veterans nonprofit. And I was still always in that whole mindset of helping people. The thing that I kept doing from the time I went to Central to hell even now that I always worked in a supplement store. I worked at GNC. I worked at Vitamin World. When I moved back here to Washington, I worked at Super Supplements and stuff like that. So I kept up with the whole herbal thing because I was like, there's something to this. Like I said, being in Eastern North Carolina, and I say that because not a lot of people were always going to the doctor unless something was wrong. Other than that, you drink some pot liquor, you do this, you do some other stuff, and you're fine. So I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. But when I got to the herbs, that really resonated to me. So I never let those things go. Then I wound up coming back here to Washington because I felt more at peace. And when I got here, I never knew middle way. I really never knew middle way existed. I never knew schools like Bastyr or NCNM down in Portland or any of the other 7 schools. I never knew none of those schools existed. I knew I wanted to go ahead and study herbs a lot more. And I don't know how I actually discovered Bastyr, but I went to the school and I saw it and I was like, eh. And I saw the school in Portland and I was way more excited about it because I loved their kitchen. Their kitchen was just awesome. And they had this program there. It's called, I think, Farm to Plate, where in a 9-month program, they'll show you how to grow stuff and use it as medicine, like a lot of these plants as medicinal herbs and how to prepare them. I was like, oh, that is awesome. And it was like, well, you can come here, but not only is there a waiting list, but you got to be accepted to the school. All right, so let me go through this. And I started allowing other things to come in and distract me, but I stayed on the course. And the one thing I started picking up was aromatherapy. And they were doing CEUs at Bastyr for aromatherapy. Awesome course. And one day, I told Tanisha this, I'm just sitting there in class one day, I think we're doing the olfactory system. And there was this lady sitting behind me, paid no attention to her the first day, paid no attention to her the second day. We were just there. And the third day, I was getting ready for class and I was listening to this astrologer on YouTube. And I let YouTube just play as I was getting ready to go and drive the Bastyr. The next thing that played was Dr. Chi Love. I don't know who this dude is. All I'm hearing about is this guy it's a Black man who's doing like medicinal Qigong. And I was like, what is this? I'm gonna let this play because I gotta finish getting ready. And some of the stuff he said resonated. Well, I go to my class and the lady behind me at lunchtime was like, we don't know anybody's story. Anthony, what's your story? And I was like, hey, I love herbs. My dad got me into these herbs and plants. And, I want to take it further. But at the point, I was like, at this point, I'm just not ready. She was like, well, come to my school. What's that? It's called Middle Way. Middle Way teaches you, like, we have 3 classes that go through, and we have 4 days that we're there: Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then the rest of the month, you're gone. And this is when you're keeping up with all the work you need to do. And then when you come back for those 4 days, you have another module that comes through, or it's a continuation of something else that you're doing. So I'm working as a graphic artist for a real estate company. We're making flyers for stuff. I was like, oh, well, that works for me because I can take 2 days off a month, use my PTO, come back to work, pay for it as I go along. Well, that's what I planned, but I got fired because I went to school. They did not want me to go to school. And I laughed at them. I was like, okay. And I continued going to school because something inside of me says, don't let this go. And here I am coming to the end of my second year. And within my second year, I keep saying I did a really dumb, smart thing because we got to our biomedicine thing and I started picking, I was like, what is this? So as I was still trying to get other things together, get bills paid, smiles and humor don't pay bills. I was like, let me find something that I can do to help pay for my bills. And I picked up the medical assistant program we have at Seattle Central. So I'm doing medical assistant stuff for a whole year. At the same time, I'm learning points and differential diagnoses. same time. I don't know why I had no idea what I was getting into, but I totally love that I did that because currently I'm actually finishing out my hours as a medical assistant in an integrative clinic with an ND, a DO, who is also an acupuncturist. He needles really, really deep. He makes me feel very uncomfortable how deep he needles. But he has so many different things. I'm just like, oh my God, this is just awesome. So I'm loving every minute of everything that I do. Like people are asking me questions and I was like, I can't needle you because I'm a student, but I do happen to have these needles here and I can tell you where to go yourself. And I'm not going to do it because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. Like I said, I totally just jumped. I went from sticking one big toe in to just jumping head first. And I just totally love everything about this. I don't know where he is, but there is another student that preceded me at this school. His name is Cedric. And Cedric and I chat every now and then. And I thought it was amazing that Cedric and I have similar looks. I mean, I'm only, what lie am I going to tell you guys? I'm 32. I'm joking. I'm 44. I do happen to have a whole lot of white in my beard, but that is just hereditary. And it's just, I don't know. When I talk about our healing art, like I just get really excited about it. I get a little tongue tied about it. It's just it's an awesome thing. And like I said, I wasn't supposed to be in the school because they don't accept people. Their policy is they won't accept anybody who hasn't had acupuncture first. And I hadn't had acupuncture until I got into the school. And the first.
Hey, interesting.
So what?
Come on.
A little bit. So the first thing that they accessed on me, because I have a lot of gastro issues because my gallbladder is gone. So the first herb that I actually realized, I'm not calling it herb, but was ginger. And I didn't know ginger was going to help with a lot of my indigestion and stuff that I had going on. Because not only was my gallbladder taken out, it popped, shriveled, and they had to like totally cut me open to go get it. But I still can form more stones. And people was like, what is up with that? So I started just really taking care of what I wanted to do. And I realized that one of the things I was doing was taking planetary herbals, which is actually made by an acupuncturist. So it's, like I said, it's just everything just kept pointing to this. And no matter what, it's just like, I'm just going to keep it going. I wish I would have known that there was a school in Maryland or the 2 acupuncture schools that are in the mountains of North Carolina. I probably, no. I don't think I would have been here if I didn't come here and go through the path that I went through, and still, like, I still have a class or so left of aromatherapy. And sometimes I just put the oils on the spot. If I want to give you heat on that spot, I might put some cinnamon oil there. Or I might put something cooling like a mint or spearmint to try to, and that's something that Linda, that woman that was sitting behind me, we are the best of friends at that school. And she was like, you can use the oils at those spots and nobody will tell you. I'm like, oh, great. I'm using these oils right now. So I don't know. I can keep talking because that's how much I totally enjoy it.
Well, thank you for sharing, Sugar. I appreciate you telling us all about your story and telling us all about your journey. And I can't wait for you to finish school and get on up here and join us in the needling world. All right, folks, last but certainly not least, I want to introduce you to Mama Lynn Vance. She got a shoulder shrug going on over there in the top right corner. Mama Lynn Vance is a really, really special treat for you because she is not actually a new graduate. And I wanted to bring her up with this panelist of other students so that you can get an idea of some other opportunities in the student life. So take it away, beautiful.
Thank you, Dr. Dandridge.
Thank you, darling. Thank you.
So, hi, everybody. First thing I need to clarify is that it looks like I'm drinking scotch. It's actually iced tea. That is a big joke for any of my family members who might be watching, but I digress. So I come to this panel today as a student in the doctoral program, but I started my acupuncture journey way back in 1997. I graduated in 2002 from Emperor's College in Santa Monica in California. what prompted my journey to acupuncture school, you know, I grew up in suburban Philadelphia, which is the best place on earth to get sick if you like hospitals and pharmaceuticals. I think Philadelphia, the area per capita, has more teaching hospitals and literally pharmaceutical companies, because I've worked with the owners, than any place else. So it was a very odd decision. I had never had acupuncture. I had never heard of it. My original degree was in business and marketing, and I was just looking for something that had meaning and purpose. And I knew my whole family was like, you should just go to medical school. And I'm like, nope, I knew that wasn't the path for me. I'd never had a good experience with a physician. And so I was, with my marketing degree, I was running a garden, a very high-end garden ornament center where I was working with a lot of landscape architects. And one of the architects had a friend who was a naturopath. And so she said, you should talk to my friend. Just talk to them, see what they say. And it was like a 2-hour conversation of basically him telling me, don't be a naturopath. He was long in the field. He was frustrated with the lack of licensure, with the lack of consistency, with the lack of what you're able to do. And he was so angry and bitter. And I was, you know, young at the time. I was maybe 25. And I thought, I don't want to be that old and angry. And at the very end of his conversation, he said something like, all the naturopaths I know make their money doing acupuncture. And that's how I found out about acupuncture. So then I did some research and I looked into it, and I found out that at the time, acupuncture was licensed in far more states. As a profession, it was more organized. And I just packed up all my stuff and I moved to California, and I went to Emperor's College. And I truly can say that I found myself. That was the first time in my life where I felt normal. I just loved it. I dove headfirst into the program. I took Tai Chi. It was my first class. I just fell in love with my Tai Chi teacher, with everything about it. Got out of acupuncture school the first time, went to China at the end of that. I did an extra clinical rotation for about a month over at the university in Beijing. One of my teachers sponsored trips over there. And so I came back, and I have the old aunties, right? And they said, well, that's funny that you went to school to study those herbs. And, you know, they would ask me the typical questions. Do the needles have medicine on them? No. What are you doing with it? No. And so one of my cousins said, it's funny that you went to school to study herbs because, and by the way, the herbs are my favorite part. She said, because grandma used to pull weeds, and she used to use all her native, like, cultural practices and cook up these herbs in a big pot and make us sit down and drink it. Now, as a side note, my family's very large. My father had 14 or something brothers and sisters, and so I'm the youngest in that generation. So my grandparents passed the year I was born. And so my older cousins have all this cool experiences with them that they tell me. But she was like, yeah, grandma used to sit us down. And I was so angry. I said, you mean I could have gone to China and told them that I was like a 3rd or 4th generation herbalist? How come you didn't tell me? So there was a little bit of kismet happening there. But so, yeah, I've been licensed since 2002. I've moved around a lot, all over California. I've done other things. In 2007, I made the decision to also go to nursing school. So in 2009, I graduated as a registered nurse. And so I'm dually licensed in nursing and acupuncture. And then you guys all know about student loans and hassles and all that nonsense. So I thought it's going to be cheaper for me to go to school than to let that interest build up. So I recently finished up my Bachelor's of Science in Holistic Nursing at PCOM, which is now Peaches, Philadelphia College of Health and Science. And I just enrolled in the doctorate program. This is my first term. So I started in April. I will be finished in April of 2021, if all goes well. It's a very short program for anyone who's on this Zoom call, who's not an acupuncturist, who's not aware. Our master's programs are so long. To get us to the doctorate level is just a little hop, skip, and a jump. So I decided to do that program at Pacific College. It's a transitional doctorate because right now I'm currently employed as a integrative medicine nurse, but I was originally employed as a nurse acupuncturist at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. So I am employed as an integrative pain management, basically. I still get to practice acupuncture. Working in the military is fantastic. They're very actually forward thinking. They've been doing acupuncture with the military for over 10 years. And it is my goal, especially once I finish the doctorate program, to get licensed acupuncturist credentialed at Walter Reed, because we don't have that right now. So that's part of my goal in becoming and doing the doctorate program is, number one, that regionally accredited diploma has value outside of our profession. Secondly, it is my goal I will have a practice focusing on more functional medicine and coaching, and I'm going to call it something else that has nothing to do with acupuncture. But my goals include to integrate acupuncture into more hospital settings, and it's just going to be necessary to have a doctorate to be able to do that. It doesn't matter which doctorate, they don't care, nobody knows. So for me, because time, my energy, my chi, and everything is limited, I decided to do this transitional doctorate, and if I need any difference in scope, I'm actually in a position. It's the other reason I did the Bachelor's of Science in and holistic nursing, is because I can also go back to be a nurse practitioner. So I'm on a mission with Dr. Dandridge to really get the word out about acupuncture, especially for our community. I think it's really important. It always has been. I've been talking about this since I went to school in 1999 and originally. So I don't know. Did I leave anything out?
I don't
Because
know.
I can keep going on and on and on and on too.
Yeah, you got that resume. You got that resume.
So, oh my goodness. So, yeah. So that's my little bitty bit of my story.
Thank you very kindly for sharing. I wanted to give a chance to all of our guests to hop on and ask a question. Usually there are a couple of questions that have popped up at some point in time or another. So if any of our guests who are not panelists have a question for one of the panelists, just a question in general about acupuncture programs or anything, type it in, unmute yourself, jump on, be an active participant. I am watching on Facebook to the best of my capacity. So if you guys have a question there, you can type it into the chat box. And if no questions come up, if our panelists can think of a favorite point, because that is one of the things that we often talk about on this show. A lot of folks have learned a lot of things about favorite points. So while we're waiting to see if anyone unmutes themselves and ask a question, I feel like Joy is going to jump up there. Like she looks like she's going to say something. And Maureen is super comfortable over there. And Mama Kayla might fall asleep on us. I hope not. So if anybody has a question, jump on in. I think Miss Mama Maureen, it's the end of the day, Mom, with me. Ask a question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, sorry, I'm like laying down. I work today, so I'm just like pooped. But these stories are so fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing them. I'm just loving hearing everyone's story, your journeys of what led you to what you do. I think it's one of the coolest things about our profession. Lynn, I grew up near Philadelphia as well. Pottstown, PA.
It's funny, my very first boyfriend was from Pottstown, and all of his friends were from Pottstown, and they were all just beautiful and gorgeous, and it was just really funny. That's my memory of Pottstown. But I grew up by King of Prussia in I went to Upper Merion.
Okay, cool. And then I wanted to say that I graduated from Midwest in 1997 in acupuncture. So I'm actually back in school now, doing the herbology part. There was a lot of stuff that went down in between 1997 and now. Like I never planned on having this much time go by, but we had 3 kids to raise. I had a couple bumps with my health. But if I can be of help to anybody studying for boards or anything, Scott, Lena, or anything, let me know. I've taken like the acupuncture, the biomedicine, and the other one. I haven't taken the herb board, but if you need any help at all, let me know.
Thank you. That is very generous of you. I have one question hanging out in the chat box from Mama Heather. She wants to know more about the transitional doctorate program, if possible. I also took the transitional doctorate program from Pacific College of Health and Sciences. They have changed their name. I always have to think before I say the name now, because that's certainly not what's on my degree. And it's not even necessarily always on the emails that I get from them. So when I took the program, I graduated 2 years ago from it. So it might be a little bit different from Mama Lynn's experience now. It was definitely all online. It was certainly a lot of reading and researching. And it wasn't, at least for me, it wasn't specific towards anything acupuncture. It was very research dominated and preparing you for an integrated practice more than anything. So that's something that I definitely highly appreciate about it. And I pretty much did it just for the title, because I know that it's useful and it definitely comes in handy. It's very useful to be able to say, shh, my name is Dr. Dandridge, please listen to what I'm saying. Because I get a lot in my practice of, well, let me go talk to my doctor. It's like, hi, I'm doctor, how you doing? So what is your experience like, Mama Lynn, in the transitional program?
I will agree that it's definitely a program that is geared toward integrative care. So it's about how to communicate with other providers, different modalities, learning about other modalities so you can build even if you're in private practice for yourself, so you can communicate better and build networks and referral networks with other providers. That's just where the field is going. I want to say that it's different than for anyone who, I think there's a lot of confusion between the DAOM degrees and the DACM transitional degrees. Neither will improve your scope, right? So it's just like nurse practitioners, right? You can either do that with a master's or a doctorate level. And then the only thing you can do with one and not the other is teach. So if you're not interested in teaching at that doctorate level, it's really going to be a personal decision. I think the 2-year doctorate programs that are more clinically based or more geared toward competencies and skills as an acupuncturist. They're also 3 times the expense. They're not online, and you have to, in my case, I would have to travel to go to do them. And so all of that made all that just not an option for me. I prefer to choose we have to do continuing education anyway. So I prefer to do the continuing education route for any clinical skills that I might need. But yeah, in terms of, I think different transitional doctorates may have different foci depending on which school you go to. But yeah, definitely the one it's doable. A lot of people are doing it with COVID. They're home, they're not working, they're just busting it out in 2 terms. So, they started in April, they'll be done in December. Like I said, I'm going to do it in 3 terms. You can do it part-time. It's pretty simple.
Right. All right.
Much.
There's I think a question from Joy, but Joy, honey, you're going to have to ask your question. What's your question?
Oh, real quick, I just want to say hi, Miss Tiara. I see you. Sorry.
Hi, everyone. Sorry I was late. My only question was, since I was late, is anybody here in Portland, Oregon currently?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So this is about all of our time, but one of the things that I always like to share with Acu-points, I feel like we should have at least one point that everybody has found to be super awesome and useful. And Mama Lena may not be able to jump back on. I know that she's in the middle of multitasking right now. So if really quickly, if our panelists can jump on and tell us what is your most favorite point, and a little bit of the why, again, being conscientious of the time because we only technically have 4 minutes left. So everybody jump on in. What's your favorite point and why?
Favorite 3.
Favorite 3.
Favorite 3.
Cardium 6.
CV8, Ren 8.
Spleen 6 cures everything.
Spleen 6 does cure everything.
Mm.
I like those Ren lines too. Those Ren lines are wonderful.
Ren,
Ren 17 is pretty good too. Ren 17 is good.
Ren 17 is one of my favorites. I like to combine it with Ren 6. If you guys don't know where the Ren line is because you're not an acupuncturist, it is a meridian that runs right down the front of you. So Ren 17 is on the chest. Ren 6 is right button, and spleen 6 is right on top of your ankle bone, and it is the cure for everything. It's the cure for hot flashes. It's the cure for OBGYN stuff. It's the cure for all things. And I think Anthony said pericardium 6, which is right here. That is a all for everything, and I particularly love to combine that one with spleen 4. I am super yeah, Lena says spleen 6 is her jam too. I am super in love with the Chong, particularly for treating racial battle fatigue, because it is the center meridian, and there really isn't a lot of good ways to be able to get to it and to be able to treat it. But I actually like to combine the Chong with some of those Ren points for really helping to bring the chi in to center and to help to deal with some of the racial battle fatigue and ongoing trauma that people go through. I see you, Brother Scott. Come on, jump in there.
So do you like front treatments better than back treatments?
Not necessarily. It depends on the client. For example, I have a client who is a very young client, but has severe issues with sensory processing disorder. And when I first started treating him, it was like almost like a lost cause. Like nobody could really make a difference in that young man's life. And then I started doing back shoe points with E-stem, and it was a huge and immediate change. His parents were like, I don't know what that last treatment is, but make sure you don't stop. And I have essentially been doing the same treatment for this young man for years. And finally, I am at a point where he will let you needle other points, because up until that point, he was like, no, 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 no. And that is because, again, with the sensory processing disorder, the way his body interprets signals is really cross-wired, and a lot of things are severely unpleasant to him, which is one of the reasons why I was treating him, because he had like all this anxiety and all this frustration and all this stuckness behind everything, just always feeling off, and nobody really being able to empathize and to sympathize with what was happening inside of his body. And so I don't always like front treatments. I do start with front treatments, but not always the front treatments. I do know the importance of back shoe point. I also know the importance of a 6-inch needle running through one's glute, because that is beautiful. Anybody else want to share any other points or treatments that they really love for the folks who are joining us?
One thing I'll say that I think people don't do enough of is touch your patients.
Man.
Just touch them.
Patients.
Yeah,
I agree.
I had classmates who they said, I don't want to touch, I don't want to do tweena, I don't want to touch, I don't want to palpate. I'm like, how are you going to get any information, besides what they tell you? Yeah, I agree.
What I will say is that I've been an acupuncturist since 2002. And I used to do a lot of Tai Chi, and I actually saw something one day and it scared me to death, and I stopped. So I was like, I'm not ready for that right now. But I'll say about 3 years ago, I started to develop a skill, and it only happens intermittently. It doesn't happen at Walter Reed, but it did in my private practice, where when I touch people, their skin vibrates like a tuning fork. So I can feel where to go with my hands. And so if your skills will change as you evolve and as you change, and you'll pick things up, and things will just come out of the blue, skills and abilities that you didn't even know you could have. And don't be scared when it happens, but it would be good to find a mentor to talk to. So, but that wouldn't happen. I also have a really strong massage background, so I am used to touching people, but so that just happened for me, and it was maybe 15 years in. So just keep it moving.
I firmly believe in the power of touch. I touch my patients a lot. I hug my patients a lot. And being that I'm mobile, I actually tuck my patients in and give them little hugs as I let myself out the door. And then someone said, Lynn, you should do Reiki. You might want to consider that. We have a couple of other Reiki masters in our Black acupuncture groups. And then the last point that was brought up, if you guys are not familiar with master tongue points, is someone brought up Lingu and Dabai. Those are some also super wonderful, awesome, and amazing points. So guys, this has been another great episode of Acu-points, Black Acupuncturist Meet and Greet. I'd like to thank you all for coming and to visit us. I just noticed that the recording has been paused, so I'm gonna find a way to share the recording from Facebook. You're gonna have to bear with me because I am not a tech person, and I am so proud of the amount of tech that I have managed to master at this point. You know, it's hard to get people to commit to longer than an hour, but what I would like to start doing, maybe for next week's meet and greet, is that we do have a couple of master acupuncturists in topics. You know, we have people who specialize in fertility, we have people who specialize in sports medicine, we have people who specialize in GI issues. So we do have specialists in our acupuncture community, and maybe what I can do is get one of them to agree to come on and join us for an hour so that you guys can really pick their brains. I hope that you guys would enjoy that. All right, so thank you again, everybody, for coming. I appreciate you. Please sign up for next week. We're going to be doing some more Black acupuncturist meet and greet. Currently, we are scheduled to go through to the end of August, providing that all of this goes so well. If my panelists can hang out as everyone slowly goes back to the rest of the day, you guys have a happy Sunday, and thank you so kindly for joining us. All right. Hold on, we got one more person, and then I have to figure out how to stop the live. Y'all bear with me.